kiss and hug me. Come on strong, go on and love me. Let's not waste that big old moon. Wake up and smell the perfume. Just say if you want to be more than friends.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another Social Web Cafe TV interview. And today we have Devorah Spilman, and I've been introducing you as the master storyteller. a better title.
Oh, I love that one.
But I have to admit, okay, I've done a lot of these interviews, and I'm so excited. I know we just met, yesterday via the internet world.
Right.
But I've been so excited because I feel like I'm like a little kid again. I'm thinking, oh, I get to go hear a story. And I'm thinking, it seems like we never outgrow that desire to hear a story. It's not about whether or not it's a fairy tale or a kid's story, but it's like that's why we watch TV, isn't it? Because we want to hear a story.
Absolutely. I think it's really a huge part of the way humans communicate. So from Deborah to Devorah, which my name is really just the Hebrew of Deborah, it's wonderful to be here. And it's especially wonderful to me because I have just completed interviewing 28 people for a telesummit on the power of story. And so it's very fun for me to be, so to speak, on the other side of the mic.
You must be tired out. That sounds really intense.
But I didn't do it all in one day.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see, 21. No, so, okay, you got 1 hour, and then...
No, it was amazing. It was so inspiring and uplifting. It was really incredible, and people can still, we'll leave people the link for it. They can still actually hear that series. It's still running. And
I'll include that in our post so people can...
Yeah, and it's funny because I called it Story Sell, Tell Yours Well, and it really is an amazing part of the way humans are, and then it's incredible how it's sort of, I don't know, maybe you could say reappeared in the world of business. I think because we have this sense that we want to bring in our authenticity and the sense of who we really are into our workplace world, and really the only way you can do that is through a story. In a sense.
And it's interesting because I think we only started talking or communicating back and forth this past week, but I was listening as far as your summit, and so many places I've gone. Not only have I heard the word story, but I've experienced story. Even this morning I did a hangout, and one of the guys, he says, "May I tell a story?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So I didn't even realize that our world is so full of this just in normal life and normal business.
It is really, really amazing. And one of my experts, Felicia Slattery, she loves to say one of the great things to ask people, and I'm sure you do this all the time, is how did you get started? And
that
what comes out? See, what I tell you. So I'll try not to be the interviewer.
No, it's okay. Because I'm like, okay, when do I get to ask that question? But that's exactly what I'm dying to know. So how did Devorah get started as a storyteller?
So it happened a long, long time ago not in a faraway land, but when I was in my early 20s and teaching preschool, which I have always had a love for working with children. And I was immersed in an exciting game of tag, only the children were saying to me, I was chasing them, and they were saying, nah, you can't get me, and I really hate that. So I said, all right, if you want me to chase you, say, iggledy-biggledy-boo. So they're going iggly wiggly tiggly too. And finally I was tired and I said, sit down, I'll tell you a story. Once there was an iggledy-biggledy-boo that lived in Zambadoodle. Don't ask, it just came out of my mind, in that moment. And it was just self-defense, really. I was tired of running around. And out came this whole story about the magical world of Zambadoodle, where the grass is purple and the sky is yellow and the sun is blue. And the wildest boys who would not sit for anything would sit for as long as I could tell a story. They would sit for it, and they loved it. And I just kept doing it, and I kept doing it all the way through university and until I was a storyteller in the public school system, and all the way through till all of a sudden a few years ago, grown-ups started saying, I can't tell stories. I'm terrible at telling stories. And I would say, no, you're not. Yes, I am. I'm terrible. And I said, no, you're not. Sit down. Did this for a friend of mine who's a financial planner, took her through a training, and she said, that's it? I said, that's it. Wow. And she began to use stories in her practice with her clients, as well as my training on image and metaphor, and it had a big effect on her. And so she told me that she wanted me to do it for this organization or this, and then all of a sudden they wouldn't let me stop. And so now here I am doing what's called story selling, which is how you see sort of storytelling in a way of making its appearance into the business world. So that's kind of the short version.
Wow. So now when you were talking, I was thinking, is there such a thing as a bad story versus a good story as far as the process of telling the story? I'm not referring to the content of the story. There might be a sad one, a happy one, different kinds, but I'm trying to think back to people I've talked to. I can't picture someone really being bad at telling their story.
The difficulty that people make, and one of my experts talked about this, is sometimes what people will do is they will list a chronology instead of a story. They'll just tell you a series of things that happened without placing it in a scene or a setting. So, for example, I can say to you, I was called in by my boss to give a presentation, and I was a little bit nervous, but in the end I got a good response, and everyone, really liked my idea. Or you can say, when I walked in the room, I could see all of the chairs made of leather that were big and fancy with all of those big executives sitting in them, and I was so nervous. And I gave my presentation, and as I gave it, I could see them begin to lean forward in their chairs. I could see I was making an impression. And by the end, they were smiling, and you can feel the difference. I'm putting you inside of, right? I could tell you just the events in order, or I can place you in the scene, and that has a big effect. And I would say the other really crucial thing, especially in business storytelling, is you have to actually know, well, two things: why you're telling your story. Because in the entertainment world, you have one reason you're telling your story, right? I'm a performer, and I told stories as entertainment, though I love to have a message in those too. And in the business world, you do really want to know, like, what is your message? Why are you telling this story? And then the other piece is you're telling a story usually that has all stories need some kind of conflict, some kind of bump in the road, but you want to tell the bumps in the road that you are on the other side of.
Mm-hmm. I like those.
Right. Like some people, when I say you have to tell, the story of your struggle, and they'll say, well, no one wants to hear my sob story. And it's like, that's true, they don't. But they do want to hear your success story. And at the same time, they don't want to hear you brag about how perfect you are. So what you're doing is you're telling your success and how you struggled to get there inside the same story. Like you're actually putting your success and your pain or your fear or whatever your vulnerability, your difficulties are, you're putting them together. So I'm telling it to you from a place of power and success and clarity, but I'm saying, you know what, I didn't always stand in this place.
That makes a lot of sense.
I stood in a different place. And I'm not afraid to tell you that I wasn't always in this clear place. Maybe at one time in my life I didn't have money, or I was terrified. There are a lot of good speakers who will tell you I was terrified to speak story. Ava Diamond, one of my interviewees on my summit, talked about how she was so scared to get up on stage and talk, and how she overcame that. And she tells it with a story. All right.
Much like you did as far as starting here and telling who you are, how you got started with a story.
Exactly. And now you can have a story that gives you credibility, right? Like, why should you even listen to me, right? Like, so I'm going to tell you, well, I've been a storyteller since I was in my 20s a long time ago, and I'm still a storyteller till this day, and here's what I've done, and here's who succeeded. You can also tell, depending on what your goal is, you can tell how you struggled so that the people who are with you will engage with you. Like, have you ever, questions like that, have you ever felt like you didn't know what to say? Or have you, those kind of things where you want to put the person in the scene with you. So that's another way of creating engagement. Ty Bennett, another one of my speakers, talks a lot about that, how you want to create credibility and then you want to create engagement, relatability, he'll talk about, which means that, oh yeah, I can relate to you. I've been there.
That sounds like an art
Those
form.
things.
Almost like a sculpture would sculpt, that object on the wheel, on the pottery wheel. It's like an art form where maybe that object looks good, but as we work more and more with it, we can make it even more so a piece of art.
I think that's right. And a lot of times for people, it's a matter, if they aren't instinctually good storytellers, they really can learn to do it, because really everybody has a story. And people like me and other people who work with entrepreneurs and business people to pull their stories out, we know how to help a person pull out their story and to sort of help them see which parts of their story they can use for what and then how to do it. So it builds their confidence. It helps them reconnect to, wow, I didn't really think I could use that for a story. I have speakers who talk about how you go back into your past. If you go into my series, Storyteller as well, and you listen to Craig Harrison, and I won't tell you the answer to this, he tells what he sold door to door as a kid, and it's hilarious. And he's turned that story into a signature speech that you have to listen to him to find out. It was fun.
That is really good. Now I got to go back and listen. But it's funny you say Harrison, and Steve Harrison. He talks about how he had a really, really bad time as far as economy turned. And I shouldn't be telling his story, although I'm all excited. I want to tell his story. But it draws you in to go, wow, this
Right.
really influential guy that now works with authors everywhere. He's got a summit coming up in New York. He's like a who's who. He actually had a moment where he wasn't sure where the next meal was coming from. Wow, I can connect to that.
Right. No, that's so true. Donna Kretsch, who's also one of the people I interviewed, that's her whole thing, is that I stood there myself. I was a single mom with no money, she says, and now I'm a multi-million-dollar business owner. And if I could do it, so can you. And that's a big part of her message. And then there's people who, I have a skill to teach, and I want to say to you, I really know that everyone has a story to tell, and I really know how to help you tell it. That's the other thing. Everybody has a gift. And one of the things that coaches and storytellers, consultants, one of the things we can do is help you pull out your gift so that you really feel it, own it, live it, inhabit it, and then how do you tell it out in the world so that people feel connected to you? And because it's your story that distinguishes you from everybody else. There's so many people doing so many things that your ideal client is the person who's in your story or connects to your story. Some people talk about how when you tell your story, the people who are in it are the kind of people who are your ideal client.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
Is that interesting? Yeah.
Almost like a subconscious thing. So see who it is that you're kind of putting into your story, and that's probably
Yeah.
really interesting.
And the other realm that's been amazing for me is in my business, Spilman Story Selling. I have gone into the corporate world, and it's amazing. I make them close their eyes. I make them, seriously, they roll their eyes first and then they do it. And then they like it. Because how often do you actually get to be quiet, go into a still place, and hear from that other part of your consciousness? And so I have a program called Metaphor Success. And in fact, it's the free gift that you can get if you go into my summit. And I lead people through this process to find images and metaphors that represent what they do.
If you had to summarize this in, let's say, 2 tips for people, besides, the third tip, which is actually the first tip, is to go to your website and hire you as a coach. Would that be?
100%. You can for sure hire me as a coach, and that it makes a huge difference to people in their confidence, in their message, in their communicating, in their relatability. It's unbelievable. So people can go to my website and email me or call me and set up a program. No problem. Over the phone is fine, actually. Works really well to learn how to do this. And of course, inviting me to to groups and conferences and that, people love that as well. And of course, I'm in the middle of this. You can also hear a free thing right now.
And the Telesummit?
Yeah, the Telesummit is still going.
Okay. How long is that going to be available for people to listen to replays?
So they'll be able to listen to replays and hear me. Actually, we still have new interviews until September 3rd, so you can have a lot of fun over Labor Day listening to it. And I will be interviewed. You'll be able to hear my interview with some of these same stories on the 3rd. And then the interviews will stay open for sure for another week, and maybe I'll be one more week after that. We'll see if we have
she
enough
likes
interest.
us.
Right. And then I'm hopefully going to package it for a pretty low price point so people can buy the whole series. So they should just opt in, stay tuned. All people have to do is opt into the Telesummit. There, you'll send the link to them for StorySellTellYoursWell.com. And once you opt in, you'll be on my email list, and I will send out information about how you can engage with me. My newsletters will start to come out, and you'll be able to give me feedback on what you need, what you want, how storytelling can help you build your business.
Excellent.
And you can find me at my website, Spilman Story Selling. That's Spilman with one L, Story Selling, which is kind of a cool idea.
Well, thank you, Devorah. This has been thrilling. So thank you so much for sharing this time with us and telling us about yourself, telling us some stories, and really inspiring us to find our story and go out and tell our story.
Well, thank you. It has been my pleasure.
Don't you want to kiss and hug me? Come on strong, go on and love me. Let's not waste that big old moon. Wake up and smell the perfume. Just say, if you want to be more than friends, got some love I'd like to make. Baby, you can squeeze me, I won't break. We could be in a paradise, you and me.